everybody wants to be a millionaire, but not many people know how to get there. Luckily, we have something called the stock market that we can invest in. If you save $5 a day and consistently put that in the stock market, eventually you can become a millionaire due to compounding growth. If you save all your cash and put in a savings account, you get a 1% return. That's not going to grow as much as it will in the stock market, most likely. And you don't have to know much about stocks to do it. You can invest in an index fund. For this video, we're going to talk about using SPY because SPY, since inception, has returned about 10.5% annually since 1957. So instead of looking at individual stocks, we're just going to use that percentage as what we're going to use for the models to show you what's going to happen. And here we go. So we're going to use this website to model our investment strategy. We're going to say that the rate of return is going to be 10.5% a year because that's what SPY did since inception. And then we're going to contribute $150 a month. Like this is only $5 a day at the end of the month. That'd be $150. So that's why I'm starting with this amount. That's the price of going to Starbucks in the morning. So skip that and instead put it in your investment account. So $150 I think should be doable for a majority of people. I know there are families out there that run a zero or negative monthly budget, which is unfortunate. But if you want to grow your wealth, you have to learn to budget and pay yourself first. And this is just kind of that concept, but starting with a smaller amount here. So I'm going to go ahead and click calculate. And you can see after 40 years for just $5 a day, you can get to $1 million, assuming that your investments return 10.5% per year. And that's pretty crazy. But yeah, that's also a long time. So for a lot of us, that may not be doable. If you happen to be younger and you're seeing this, get started now. Everyone wishes that they started a lot earlier than they can. The next best day is today. But if we look at the monthly schedule here, something I wanted to point out is that after 7 years, that's about when the interest that you earn is going to be more than you contribute every month. And then you don't have to wait another 7 years for that to double up again. Instead, just a couple of years, and you see now we're at 300 for monthly interest. And that's just 3 years later. And that's because the compounding growth is starting to happen. It's really the seventh wonder of the world, and it's something that should be taught in schools and really stressed about how you can use it to better yourself financially. I'm not sure why it's not taught and stressed in school. But there you go. For $5 a day, in 40 years, you become a millionaire. Now, what if you say, oh, that's too long. I don't want to wait 40 years. What if you can do 300? So maybe don't eat out as much. And what happens is you become a millionaire after 34 years. And again, something I wanted to point out is that the time that your interest will get to be paying more than what you're putting in, it's still going to be the same spot. And that's because that's based off of the percent return you're getting every year. So again, at the end of year 6, that's when you double up. And that's going to be the same no matter what your starting contribution is. And you'll see diminishing returns for how many years gets taken off by the more you contribute. So at a certain point, contributing more doesn't feel like it's worth it as much, although it does help regardless. So if you can, especially if you're starting out, start by putting in that money early as much as you can. If you're willing to forego a car payment and stick with a used car, the time to get there is also reduced even further. I think it's 28 or 26 years. So there you go, $1 million. If you could do 600 a month, that's a pretty hefty price to put in there. But that's what the average person pays for their new car payment. So get a used car. If you don't need a new car, now you can be a millionaire in 28 years by just simply not having that car payment. Just something to think about. So going back to the slideshow here. So here you see what happens when you contribute more money monthly and how it affects your timeline until you become a millionaire. And you can see you get diminishing returns going forward, I guess. So the jump from 150 to 300 shaves 6 years off, but the jump from 1,000 to 2,000 only shaves 4 years off. So that's just something to think about. You don't have to go and invest everything in the stock market. Save some money now, make memories while you're young, that sort of thing. And just kind of find out where that balance is for you. What can you actually contribute every month to make this happen? If you are a family with 2 incomes, maybe you could push more. Just something to think about. This is where I think this becomes a valid strategy. The average car payment right now for a new car is $650. To me, that's mind-blowing. Why are people paying so much for a new car when a used car will get you from point A to point B? I don't get it. Instead of having that car payment, you could turn around and put that in the stock market, and in 28 years, you'll be a millionaire. Then you can buy a new car in cash. I know some people are car fanatics and like, yeah, sure, if that's your pleasure in life, then go ahead, get your new cars. But just know that you could be investing that instead, and that can grow over time due to compounding interest and make you a millionaire. Uh, just something to think about. So you can find ways to cut expenses and just dedicate that money to putting into stock market, and it'll be you won't regret it later on. So another idea that you can do is if you're well off and you can convince your parents even, like start an investment account for your child or your grandchildren. If you get a couple of adults throwing a couple $100 here and there as well, like that can jumpstart their financial life as well. Imagine being 18 and actually having money that you can actually afford to move out at 18 and not have to live at home. Or you could also use that as an opportunity to instill saving habits so that when they do leave the coop, then they know how to manage their finances and they have an idea to save as well. Uh, if you so if you have a new child or you got a new grandchild, if you can convince the adults in the family to contribute into this pot to put towards the future of that child, you can really set them up in life. So if the parents can invest $100 a month and then both sets of parents give $100 a month as well, there's your $300 a month. You're setting this kid up for life. After 18 years, that account would be worth $190,000, and hopefully they get a job at that point, and they could choose if they want to continue that strategy moving forward, and they could be a millionaire in another 16 years. So by the time they're 34, they could be a millionaire. Instead, if everyone can invest $150 a month, so the grandchild becomes $450, the child would have $286,000 invested, and they could do some other things with that money as well. Like they could invest that in QYLD, get that 12% return, and that would be a salary of $34,000 without them having to work, which frees them up to pursue whatever they want to do and not necessarily base everything off of the financial compensation, because they have a nice little nest egg here set up, and that's all because of the opportunity that all the adults came together to help provide for their children. Like it's just pay it forward, make that generational wealth, give them opportunities. We know money isn't everything. It can't buy happiness, but it sure does buy financial security, and it gives you a lot of opportunities in life that you would otherwise not have. So having a jumpstart like this would be huge, something I'd hope that you consider for your children, and just something to consider. Next, let's talk about the cheat code. So once you get 100 shares of SPY, you could turn around and sell 15 Delta covered calls, and that'll bring in an additional $200 per month. So in addition to the 150 that you put in every month, or 300, whatever you guys are doing, once you can start selling covered calls, that's additional money that you can count as being contributed as well, which will speed up the process to get to $1 million. And if the covered call gets blown through, you can roll it. But you got time before you gotta have enough shares to do it. You need to get 100 shares of SPY first, or whatever index fund you're gonna do, before you can start using covered calls to make more money. And if you want to learn more about covered calls, go ahead and check out this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time.